Hello, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates here on the north side of Indianapolis, Indiana. And I have a video entitled, You Bottled the Right Marital Partner. And I know that title is somewhat cryptic. It'll make sense in just a moment here. This is my fourth and final installment in the Why We Never, Ever, Ever End Up Marrying the Wrong People series of blogs and videos. A client recently had sent me a link to a blog called The Philosopher's Mail from the United Kingdom. And I enjoyed the blog. I disagreed with the main premise, but I enjoyed the writing and the thinking. And I've been sort of riffing off of their writing these past four blogs and videos. And I think it's been a really excellent discussion. I've gotten a lot of feedback, positive feedback from people. So basically, the writer goes through and discusses 9 reasons why we tend to end up marrying the wrong people. And of course, my belief is you never, ever, ever marry the wrong person. So this is number 7, their reason number 7. We end up marrying the wrong people because we want to freeze our happiness. So I'm just going to read what they wrote and then sort of respond to it. We have a desperate and faithful urge to try to make nice things permanent. We want to own the car we like. If I owned the car I liked, it would be a Ford Thunderbird, those recent convertible editions. I had one and I loved it. Now I drive a Kia Soul. My kids call it the hamster mobile. We want to live in the country we enjoyed when we were a tourist, and we want to marry the person we are having a terrific time with. We imagine that marriage is a guarantor of the happiness we're enjoying with someone. It will make permanent what might have otherwise been fleeting. It will help us to bottle our joy, the joy we felt when the thought of proposing first came to us. We were in Venice, on the lagoon, in a motorboat with the evening sun throwing golden flakes across the sea. The prospect of dinner in a little fish restaurant, our beloved in a cashmere jumper in our arms. And we got married to make this wonderful feeling permanent. Unfortunately, there is no causal necessary connection between marriage and this sort of feeling. The feeling was produced by Venice, the time of day, a lack of having to go to work, an excitement at dinner, a 2-month acquaintance with someone, and none of this marriage will increase or guarantee. Marriage doesn't freeze the moment at all. That moment was dependent on the fact that you had only known each other for a bit, that you weren't working, that you were staying at a beautiful hotel near the Grand Canal, that you'd had a pleasant afternoon at the Guggenheim Museum, and that you just had some wonderful chocolate gelato. Well, I got to disagree with my writer friend from the Philosopher's Mail on this point. I do not believe they understand the nature of romantic love at all. He or she, and as I read it, it sounds like a he, because the beloved is in a cashmere jumpsuit, and he was proposed. I'm going to call him a he. believes that many of us marry the wrong person due to our misguided desire to permanently bottle the joy. The thing is that the joy the writer speaks of wasn't actually caused by Venice or the sun throwing those golden flakes across the sea, or the beautiful hotel, or the pleasant afternoon at the Guggenheim Museum, or the wonderful chocolate gelato. I call the joy enmeshment. And it is that universal, overwhelmingly romantic sexual energy that gobbles up each of us and all of us almost at one point or another in life. And it is not dependent on anything as wonderful or romantic as Venice or the golden flakes thrown across the sea by the sun. It can happen in Walmart on a bad day with someone you have no business falling in love with and had no intention to. I didn't fall in love in Walmart, if you're wondering. Overpowering romantic love can pop up in very unromantic, ill-timed, dark, dysfunctional settings. When our infallible radar system goes off, it alerts us that there's a psychological twin to either our father or our mother that has crossed our paths, and they're all dressed up in a body that we find arousing and attractive. And pow! That's when the enmeshment grabs hold. It doesn't have to be Venice or a romantic candlelit dinner. It's just the right, wrong person comes along. And we just know. And we feel that energy even from across the room. You only have that kind of energy with people who are so wrong for us that they are absolutely perfect for us. And we almost never marry the people who we just don't have that energy with. I don't care how many gelatos you eat with them or how many lovely afternoons you share with them in a museum. So, enmeshment is about coming across somebody who fits you. They fit your prescription. They're basically a clone of whoever wounded you the most in your childhood. It's not about let's bottle the joy because we were in Venice and we had this amazing time. We're bottling the joy, all right. And what we're really also doing is we're bottling a lot of pain and misery. We just don't know it at the time. The author continues, getting married has no power to keep a relationship in this beautiful stage. Yeah, obviously. It is not in command of the ingredients of our happiness at that point. In fact, marriage will decisively move the relationship on to another very different moment, to a suburban house with lots of bills, a long commute, a tassel of kids, and the only ingredient in common is the partner. And that might have been the wrong ingredient in the bottle, hence my title. I was going to call this You Bottled the Right Ingredient, but it sounded really cryptic. You did not bottle the wrong ingredient. You bottled the right person. Your radar is infallible. I once had a fella come to me and he said, Mark, my picker of women is broken. Every woman I've ever dated has been really mean and really crazy. And I said, my friend, your picker is not broken. It's infallible. You're batting 1,000%. If there's a mean, crazy chick in the party, you're going to bring her home. And that's how love works. Obviously, marriage does not have the power to keep a relationship in its innocent, beautiful fairy tale stage. But that is not because many of us bottled the wrong people, the wrong ingredients to begin with. It's because marriages are actually designed to drift apart after 7 to 10 years, give or take. Few of us have the emotional health to keep the magic flame fanned and fiery. Since we marry psychological clones of people who wounded us deeply when we were little ones, we tend to get a bit defensive and walled off with them after that deceptive, numbing, intoxicating enmeshment energy evaporates. Mother Nature is a wise old gal, my friends. Even the most immature looking, irrational, married way too soon, wouldn't listen to reason couples actually do get it right every single time. The reason they rushed into it to begin with is because they found the Holy Grail, and they know it. They know it in their bones. The author goes off on an interesting little rabbit trail here. He writes, the Impressionist painters of the 19th century had an implicit philosophy of transience that points us in a wiser direction. They accepted the transience of happiness as an inherent feature of existence and could in turn help us to grow more at peace with it. Sisley's painting of a winter scene in France, and I've got the picture on my blog there's a link at familytreecounseling.com. You can see that picture. It's lovely. Painting of a winter scene in France focuses on the set of attractive but utterly fugitive things. Towards dusk, the sun nearly breaks through the landscape. For a little time, the glow of the sky makes the bare branches less severe. The snow and the gray walls have a quiet harmony. The cold seems manageable, almost exciting. In a few minutes, though, night will close in. Impressionism is interested in the fact that things we love most are only around a short time, and then they disappear. It celebrates the sort of happiness that lasts a few minutes rather than for years. In this painting, the snow looks lovely, but it's going to melt. The sky is beautiful at this moment, but it's about ready to go dark. This style of art cultivates a skill that extends far beyond art itself, a skill at accepting and attending to short-lived moments of satisfaction. The peaks of life tend to be brief. Happiness doesn't come in year-long blocks. With the Impressionists to guide us, we should be ready to appreciate isolated moments of everyday paradise whenever they come our way, without making the mistake of thinking them permanent, without the need to turn them into a marriage. So I write, seriously? That was deep and impressive and highly cultured, but it's just plain wrong thinking. Happiness does come in 7 to 10 year chunks for most young people married in their 20s. I would bet that the author is more 40-ish and has probably been pretty wickedly divorced at least twice. The joy after 2 or 3 years or even 4 years of dating inspires these lovely, marvelous parties that we call weddings, in which the couple's happiness is worshipped and celebrated with great glee, even by us old folks who know better. Why don't we old people tell the young people get married what they're in for? because I guess we want to pretend with them. The vast majority of severe marital problems happen after the first 10 to 15 years. Most couples live off the fumes of enmeshment for years, 7 to 10, followed by 5 to 10 years of tending to small children. At that point, nobody cares if they're happily married. They've got diapers to change and kids to get through the bathtub and babies that need to be fed. It's not about being happy, it's about survival at that point. The number 8 reason we end up marrying the wrong people, the author writes, because we believe we're special. The statistics are not encouraging. Everyone has seen plenty examples of terrible marriages, that's for sure. We've seen our friends try it and come unstuck. They know perfectly well, in general, marriage face immense challenges. And yet, we do not easily apply this insight to us. We're special. Without significantly formulating it, we assume that this is a rule that applies to other people. Other people are going to have problems, not us. That's because a raw statistical chance of 1 in 2 of failing marriages, it's actually higher than that, seems wholly acceptable, given that when one is in love, one feels you've already beaten the odds extraordinarily well. The beloved feels like a 1 in a million special person. With such a winning streak, the gamble of marrying seems pretty, attainable. We silently exclude ourselves from this generalization. We're not to be blamed for this, but we could benefit from being encouraged to see ourselves as possibly being exposed to the general fate of there's a good chance you're going to end up divorced. So I reply by saying there's a strong denial system in our culture and in the British culture. How many people would join the military or go to college or have a routine surgery if they knew for a statistical fact that more than half of them weren't going to make it? Not too many. But people still flock to the marriage altar as if it all offered safety and excellent odds rather than ultimate brutal pain, deep wounds, and bad surprises for virtually all of us, not just those of us who get divorced. Some of us are just able to work on our issues and salvage a marriage, and some of us just live pretty darn miserably and stay married. Reason number 9 of why we end up marrying the wrong people: we want to stop thinking about love. Before we get married, we are likely to have had many years of turbulence in our love lives. We've tried to get together with people who didn't like us. We've started and broken up unions. We've gone out for endless parties in the hope of meeting someone, and known excitement and known bitter disappointments. No wonder if, at a certain point, we have enough of all that. Part of the reason we feel like getting married is to interrupt the all-consuming grip that love has over our psyches. We are exhausted by the melodramas and thrills that go nowhere. We're restless for other challenges. We hope that marriage can conclusively end love's painful rule over our lives. So therefore we go out, in this author's opinion, and bottle the wrong person. It can't and won't. There is much doubt, fear, rejection, and betrayal in a marriage as there is in the single life. It's only from the outside that a marriage looks calm and serene and peaceful and uneventful and nicely boring. I respond by saying, yes, there ultimately is actually more doubt and fear and rejection and betrayal in marriage than in a single life. It just doesn't hit most young married people until 12 to 15 years later, or 20 or 25 years later. The vast majority of my therapy clients are closer to 45 than 25. 25 is not a time when people go to therapy. It's a time of living off of that enmeshment and having little babies. So the author writes in conclusion, preparing us for marriage is ideally an educational task that falls on our culture as a whole. We have stopped believing in dynastic marriages. That means somebody else picks your wife for you, your husband for you. And we are seeing the drawbacks of romantic marriages. Now comes the time for what the author calls the psychological marriage, or the eyes wide open. You know who you are, you know who they are, and you work hard and build something solid. And I say, amen. As a culture, let's teach the young and the old alike to take things slow, to bathe and to baste each relationship in lots of couples therapy. Let's teach everybody to expect a brutal rash of deep relationship shit to ultimately come to every couple. And let's build solid, real life, eyes wide open foundation before the words I do are ever spoken. But let's begin with the correct premise that our instincts were absolutely correct and we bottled the right ingredient to begin with. The challenge is to face off with that right ingredient, the right ingredient who is like your controlling father or your abandoning mother, with humility, with patience, with courage, with faith, as we learn to intelligently overcome shame and abandonment issues and emotional cutoff and addictive behaviors and rage and victim mentality and infidelity and all the other unresolved baggage that we drag into adult life from our always wounded childhoods. Folks, I think that's a pretty good sentence. I'm going to read it again. I wrote, let's begin with the premise that our instincts were absolutely correct and that we bottled the right ingredient. The challenge is to face off with that right ingredient with humility, patience, courage, and faith as we learn to intelligently overcome shame, abandonment issues, emotional cutoff, addictive behaviors, rage, victim mentality, infidelity, and all the other unresolved baggage that we drag into adult relationships from our always wounded childhoods. Well, we're done with that particular series on basically courting intelligently and wisely and with psychological insight. If you have not joined our YouTube channel, please do. We're getting about 160 every 28 days join our channel, and we're just thrilled with that. Also visit our website, familytreecounseling.com. You'll find 6 books that I've written about marriage, about abandonment issues, about shame, about counterdependency, and about recovery. So thank you for watching today, and God bless.